Good morning, and welcome to Adam versus the Man on this beautiful Wednesday in Gardenia. It is October 21st, 2020, and what a week it's been already. More news than we can cover. It's one of those weeks that people are, believe it or not, we have things to talk about aside from Corona itself. But, before we get to that, I do want to tell everybody there are a couple stories. By the way, we do have the one laptop per child update in our grab bag today. I got to spend a few hours at least yesterday doing research. By the way, our top story, we just had a comment on this from Fester Fink in the group chat. Fester, is that Mr. Fink? If you're watching this, officially no Yeezus. I was looking forward to those memes too. We're going to talk about Rogan. Yeah, the title for today's show being Rogan versus Kanye. Apparently not happening. But before we get to that, I don't normally start the show with like, hey, here's a preview of what we're going to be talking about later. But one of the Fester Fink wants us to invite Kanye on Adam versus the Man. Oh, don't worry. Marcus, if you're watching right now, our guest booker, add Kanye West to the list. Why the heck not? Who knows? Maybe he's actually looking for an alternative to Joe Rogan for a podcast that he can do remotely. Although I suppose if Yeezus himself wanted to come and join us here in Gardenia, we would accommodate him for an in-person interview, despite the risk of COVID. The Rogan story is actually going to be our top story today, but there's one story that that did come out. Let's see, was this is yesterday? This is something we would have covered today, because this is something that I think is very important to teasing out the reality behind the statistics, or applying statistics to understand reality better, to understand things in proportion. And the headline you're going to see today, if you're plugged into the propaganda, you're going to see this headline, and I'm just looking at statnews.com. CJ, don't worry about this. We're going to get to this. We're going to get to this tomorrow. This is an important preview for tomorrow's show, because, the headline that I'm seeing is, amid pandemic, U.S. has seen 300,000 excess deaths, with highest rates among people of color. Like, I love, they put excess deaths in little quotes like, well, there's no such thing as an excess death. Every death is unnecessary, right, or something like that. There are some fun ways of using wordplay around these statistics, but I said this from very early on in the pandemic, pointing out, and by the pandemic I mean the coronaphobia pandemic, not the virus pandemic, that 7,500 Americans die on an average day. And if you see that there are no excess deaths, if that death line is flat, then there were no deaths caused by Corona, simply attributed to Corona. And one of the things that Ron Paul pointed out very early on in this is that you're going to see a decrease in pneumonia deaths. All of a sudden, pneumonia as a cause of death on a birth certificate, if you can call it COVID and get more money, why not call it COVID? Whoops. We had this unexplainable drop in pneumonia deaths in 2020, right? So it really depends on, what are the, deaths over the norm around this period. And the mainstream headline that you're going to see today, or the narrative behind this, is COVID's actually worse than we thought. Now, before you can say, hey, here's the expected trend line of American deaths, and then here's the increase over the Corona period, you have to really establish that baseline statistically. If during that time, there's a surge in deaths from some other cause, you would have to tease that out. You would have to say, well, hold on a second. So the mainstream narrative that you're going to get, I mean, why are they trying to do this? They're trying to say Corona's worse than we thought. It's not 200,000 people dead, it's 300,000. And I actually spent a few hours doing the research on this last night. What they're going to try to tell you is that every single one of their official 200,000 something COVID deaths is a COVID death, and that most, if not all, of the other 100,000 excess deaths are also COVID deaths. Couldn't possibly be suicide. Or drug overdoses, or violence resulting from desperation, or other crime, things like that. Now, it's funny, when they put out this 200,000 figure, just remember, only 6% died from COVID as the exclusive cause of death. The others all had either comorbidities, pre-existing conditions, or other major significant contributors to those deaths. Yeah, the other 94%. So if you go, well, these other 100,000 are COVID. Yeah, there's a lot to tease out here. There's a lot to break down. And so I'm going to make this suicides and statistics as our theme tomorrow. And it's going to be pretty much the whole show. We didn't get our Mental Health Monday this week, so maybe we'll get it tomorrow. And tomorrow we have no guests. So I really want to encourage everybody to plug in, bring your suicide stories, your success stories, I would hope, of either overcoming your own suicidal temptations or helping others do the same. So tomorrow is gonna be a big episode. Statistics, suicide, and Corona. But today we have Travis Grew running for Senate in North Carolina as a Libertarian, my old friend, joining us. I believe he just texted me and is waiting for the link, CJ, just so you know. But like I've got, let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. I got 10 links pulled up just for this suicide and statistics block. So yeah, we're not going to try to shoehorn it into today's show. But I want, not only is it's a big episode coming tomorrow. I mean, today's every day on 9 versus man. We have big important things to say, right? But no, tomorrow really is going to be a special episode: suicide, statistics, and Corona. And some of that's going to include some of the economic stuff that's contributing to the desperation. One of the disturbing things about this right now is that we have to speculate. COVID deaths are immediate, right away as statistics, but suicide deaths, no, we have those on about a 2-year delay normally. Yeah, no, and I understand that you're going to want to be certain before you list a cause of death for legal reasons and things like that, but it puts us in this awkward situation now. Well, I mean, there's no real profiteering on suicide. I'm sure we'll get into this. I'm sure someone has found a way to profit off of suicide trends. But hey, so for tomorrow, I really want to appeal to the Producers Club, especially, and to the audience. If there's something, if again, what did I miss? Is there something that I need to include in this story, trying to give the big picture as completely as possible, comprehensively as possible on suicide, statistics, and Corona? Send me a link. Comment Jim Freedom is watching you right now in the comments. I mean, hey, if you're too lazy to send me an email, adam@thefreedomline.com, that would be best. Put it in the comments, and Jim Freedom will get it on stage, on screen here during today's show if it's interesting, or tomorrow for we'll get it. He'll collect those links, email them to me, and we'll make sure that as a team we put together a really good show tomorrow and tackle this topic properly. So, Jim, get yourself up on stage here. We're talking about the Producers Club, our volunteer editorial team. It's been awesome. We got a lot of links from them today. I mean, this is actually now really improving the editorial quality of the show. And one of my fantasy projects right now is to turn the freedomline.com into a libertarian answer to the Drudge Report. And it's like, holy crap, we've already got the team behind it to do it. It's in terms of, we have a core group of people who are committed the way that I am personally to reading as much news as possible and understanding it and sharing what's important and being an active part of the news conversation. So, every morning when I do my show prep, I have three sources primarily. I have my social media. Excuse me. Wow. Vitamins on an empty stomach again. I'm on day 7 of consistent. We're talking about Mental Health Monday. We skipped. I am on day 7 of consistently taking my vitamins again after like a month off and being funky. And it's kind of like, what causes Adam to be funky? Which came first, right? Does Adam not taking his vitamins cause him to feel funky, or does feeling funky cause Adam to not take his vitamins? I don't know, but there's a pretty strong relationship here. We're going to get some studies done. We're going to explore this more. Jim, good morning, brother. How you doing?
What's going on? I'm going to go ahead and hope that it's the latter, that your wonkiness is making you not want to take the pills. I hate to think that the pills are controlling you.
Well, it might not be control, but like, okay, sidebar on vitamins here. Maybe I wish we were in the No Force One studios. I could show you. I have these. I'm a bit of a vitamin junkie, and let's do this for the show tomorrow, Jim. Remind me tomorrow morning, because as long as there's an overall health component to taking vitamins, obviously, that's very much related to mental health and what we're experiencing right now. So tomorrow, if you're watching live, and you're only going to get this if you get the whole show, we are going to I'll hold up my big box of vitamins, my panels, and my giant box of vitamins. I got the mail yesterday, by the way. I went and checked the mail in town in Ashford. All right, we already got a comment you want to share. Adam is overdosing on fish oil. Well, I don't know. Maybe that's part of it. When I take my vitamins on an empty stomach before the show in the morning, and maybe I'll put when we get the studio done, I'll put my vitamins in the studio and I'll take them like right after the show in the morning, so it doesn't make me burp during the show. But no, I'm underdosing on excessive types of vitamins, I guess you could say. I'll explain that tomorrow. I'll explain it. We'll make that part of our statistics, suicide, and
Thursday.
Mental Health Thursday, yeah. But no, so to your challenge, I think there's a the correlation has I guess the term would be bipolar causational effect, and that if I'm trucking along and I'm taking my vitamins, and recently I've been in a funk, over the last month or so, maybe until about a week ago, and when I start taking my vitamins again. And when I'm trucking along and doing well and I'm taking my vitamins are supporting me feeling vibrant every day, feeling just even a little more vibrant than I might without them. And I'm really cutting into tomorrow's content. But you know, when the food is so leached of nutrients, you really have to go. You know, if you're going to say, you know what, I'm not going to take vitamins. I'm going to just eat a very careful, balanced diet and make sure that I get all my nutrients. You can't just say, well, this food has this much of this vitamin, this has this, and therefore I'm getting everything, because so much of that is denatured or less effective, or just from crops grown in soil that has been leached of its primary elements that allow those plants to make those minerals and vitamins in an edible way for humans. Uh, it's like, oh man, I got to reference Network again, 1976 movie, right? Howard Beale. We know that the air is unfit to breathe and the food is unfit to eat. You know, and it's like, yeah, yeah. Even if, you know, unless you go to some really crazy above and beyond effort, you know, you're not going to get your complete nutritional profile from food today. It's not realistic. So, I mean, at very least, take a vitamin, throw a multivitamin, you know, in your daily routine. And for me, what I do is I take a ton of vitamins, but I generally underdose. I'll explain tomorrow. We're gonna do fun, but it's gonna be fun. Adam's vitamin segment.
Bringing health and
So,
wellness to the libertarian community, Justin Roberts.
yeah, you know what? I appreciate that. You know, this is, man, I'm gonna state this publicly, in order to motivate myself here, Jim, because you know, part of my funk of the last month has been missing having you here in person more often. Gardenia just isn't the same without Jim. For those of you that don't know, it's another unfortunate consequence of the coronavirus economic pandemic that podcasting doesn't pay what it used to. Let's just put it that way. Censored, still censored on YouTube right now. We got some fun plans, by the way, for when we come back. I think now, yesterday we were looking at the timing a little bit, but I think our 2 weeks might be up technically today or tomorrow for you. No, tomorrow or Friday for YouTube. Our bands, I think it kicked in on a Thursday. So it might, but we're going to wait till Monday. You're going to see, again, I'm like, people in the Producers Club know it's coming. People who aren't have no freaking clue. But we've got a whole new show format coming for next Monday when we get back on YouTube. That's going to be a lot of fun. But we're talking about the Producers Club, Jim. I wanted to plug this. Jim, what have you seen in the Producers Club chat that you've enjoyed lately?
I enjoy everything. I'll be honest, I haven't been dipping too much into the Bullshitters Anonymous chat the side chat that we got, because that thing gets filled. I check it out every once in a while though. But the news clippings in the Producers Club is just, nobody has legitimately has the time to go through every single news article that's out there and every story that's happening right now. I mean, you'll drive yourself crazy, and if you don't,
Yeah.
you're just spending too much time. You need to get out more and read some other stuff. But in the Producers Club, it's like usually somebody will send something that they saw. So all these people from around the country and even around the world, because we're international, we got a guy from Germany in our Producers Club. So from all over the world, people see different stuff and they send it into the Producers Club. So it's like a gathering of all the different stuff that people, like-minded people like ourselves, want to pay attention to. So you don't have to go searching the stuff out. You don't have to spend a ridiculous amount of time on the internet looking for all the newest stuff that's happening. You can literally just scroll through the Producers Club and look at different items. And then when you click on that, it might inspire you to look up something else that you can then share back to the Producers Club. So
Yeah, no,
I love it.
It's really amazing how this is developed. Like what we have with the Producers Club as like just a group of people helping me, you know, but really helping each other in this conversation to decide. You know, by the way, I got all these, like, I feel like I did in the first just 20 minutes of the show. I've opened up all these threads and sidebars and have it like come back to any. I have, by the way, this is like my one. I know my weaknesses, right? I mean, there's a lot going on in here, people. Okay, it's hard to keep track of. This is a very interesting place to live, but there's I know my weaknesses. One of them is that I even start sentences and midway through go, oh wait, I have this really important sidebar. What was I talking about? And by the way, CJ just put in the Producers Club chat that there's a promo code for producers to buy merch at a discount. If you go to adamversustheman.com, you can see this. But just as a team of people, and right now it's just 26 of us in here, and that includes, I guess we can say Mercedes now is, yes, as of becoming our debate manager a couple weeks ago. Although no debates yet since the first with makethemdebate.com. Check it out, makethemdebate.com. But yeah, that producers club of 26 includes our core team of 5 of myself, CJ, Jim, guest booker Marcus, and debate manager Mercedes Damerkowski. And we're in there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I mean, Jim knows my preferred method of communication is text, and that's what it is. It's just a big text group. And then we've split it. We've bifurcated the conversation, where the Producers Club, the main one, is really about helping develop the show and make sure that, and it's like the editorial development, and for a long time I was like, let's get this, Adam, or the Freedom Line, as a libertarian answer to the Drudge Report, a better, more honest news aggregator. It's kind of like we've already got the editorial team behind it. I don't like, because I was thinking, you need staff. You need funding. If anybody wants to help sponsor this project or get involved or help develop this, I mean, what do you really need to have a libertarian news aggregator that is a proper answer to the Drudge Report? By the way, there have been various attempts at this, but none of them launched with an adequate model or maintained their consistency, and that's what it's got to do. If you have a site that's doing that as a news aggregator, it's going to be every single day you build that. This is where people can go and get their news. So if you want to get involved with that, send me an email, adam@thefreedomline.com. But like, I know we need one, part-time webmaster, or at least someone who's willing to take it on as a project and really set up the freedomline.com properly, with an easy way to add links and have them kind of just like, scroll up. Anyway, I would love to sit down with someone who's willing to put in the time and develop that concept for the website to be effective. But you need funding, because I think you need 1 or 2 people watching the news continuously. But instead, we have this team of 26 people watching the news, continuously sharing links. And so it really is a cool resource that actually might allow us to launch this other project with this element already in place. So, as always, got a bunch of other projects going on here in Gardenia, the Sovereignty Project, Big Igloo Geodesics. If you want to get involved with any of that, send me an email, adam@thefreedomline.com. One last promo before comments, of course, cigarfederation.com. Promo code Adam10, all caps, gets you 10% off. Please, buy some cigars. Buy some cigars. If you enjoy cigars, those are my favorites there on screen. CJ's got it, by the way. The JSK Nugs, CBD infused cigars, a uniquely relaxing experience. And for Cigars and Sunsets, hopefully we'll get Peter Yapel joining us this Friday. Maybe Jim too. We'll see. Jim, in the last 24 minutes of my rambling, did I leave any threads open? Did I unfinish sentences?
Trying to say, I feel like there was one, but I was following the whole time, so I get just as lost. I follow the same thread,
Well, I would just remind our audience, especially our Producers Club, that tomorrow we're doing a very special episode: statistics, suicides, and Corona. And plus Adam's vitamin and health thing. Oh, by the way, about that comment that you threw up there, bringing health and fitness to the libertarian community, you know, it's something that I've always done to one degree or another. I mean, I've always been a fitness and health buff, in a whole lot of ways. You know, I've always been about big into lifting, maintaining just overall cardio health and fitness, and you know, a health awareness and a nutritional and dietary awareness. So in the presidential campaign, when I was touring, we would go to the gym a lot, and you know, like every other day at least. And I would take some picture, some goofy like, look at me at the gym, aren't I cool? You know, and it's like I kind of grapple with that from an ego perspective. Like, am I showing off or am I showing people a better way? You know, there's a fine line between helpful, encouraging gym pictures and straight up douchebaggery. And I walk that very fine line, and I go back and forth. I'm on both sides of that line sometimes. Yeah. But you know, when I'm here in the garden at home, my primary means of working out is manual labor, you know, and so I'm like, I'm more cardio fit now. Doesn't make for very good photos. You know, and actually my muscle mass is probably the lowest it's been in a while. So I'm kind of like embarrassed. But no, I appreciate the reminder, and I think, you know, bringing physical health, you know, more into our message, I think I think that's a good thing. So thanks for the encouragement. And now the Producers Club, just to be clear, to let people know how they can join. Jim, can we do a contest today off the top of our heads? Do a comment contest, because we got a guest, we got a lot of news to cover. Crap, we're almost 30 minutes into the show already.
I don't know, but Angela Thornton Canny says Anytime Fitness should sponsor you.
Yeah, no, we actually looked into that. Thank you, Angela. Angela was our wonderful volunteer treasurer for the campaign, and has, by the way, great resource. And I share. I like to think like I share Angela very carefully with a few people, because she's kind of a political financial guru, and an extraordinary volunteer as a libertarian, doing so much thankless behind the scenes work. And I know her from when she was the treasurer, technically treasurer, I don't know, accountant, whatever. She handled, I think she was technically the treasurer, but she handled all the financial important stuff and compliance for my congressional campaign back in 2010. That's how long I've known her. And I'd like to think that when someone, you know, when I like someone and they ask for help with something like this, I go, well, let me hook you up with ATC here. Angela Thornton Canny knows what's up. And so I've sent a few people her way for help, and she's helped with some of my other projects as well. But yeah, the problem with Anytime Fitness is that they're a franchise business. So national promotion or sponsorship, kind of unlikely. And, you know, it's hard. Like, you know, this is just so everybody knows, like, again, independent media and the importance of being actively engaged as an audience member, supporting whatever independent media you consume. If I was doing a podcast just about health and fitness, it would be really easy to go to a national gym chain and go, hey, I'm at one of your gyms every week, at least give me a sponsorship, because there's no liability. But I say controversial shit. And if I didn't, there wouldn't be much of a point. And again, like to the point of like Cigar Federation, and Bitcoin.com, naturalnews.com. I know I'm forgetting Dash, Smart Cash. I know I'm forgetting. Excuse me?
freedomsphoenix.com.
No. I'm talking about everybody who's ever sponsored Adam versus the Man in a meaningful way.
Well, he sort of has.
Well, freedomsphoenix.com, Ernie Hancock has been extremely... See, but for him, it's no liability. Ernie Hancock's already got that propaganda target on his back, right?
Right, fair enough.
waving red flags. Hey, I don't believe in your propaganda. He's already one of us. So no, he's not. But for those people who are running businesses trying to appeal to the mainstream, it takes a, a certain amount of courage and possibly even sacrifice to say, I'd rather support Adam. I'd rather support Adam versus the man, and as a business connect with that audience than pretend that I'm not a libertarian and sponsor some show with a message that I don't believe in order to reach an audience of zombies. Excuse me. So, that's why I think when Cigar Federation in particular right now is as our affiliate partner, it takes some guts for them to say, yeah. When you sponsor a show like Adam versus the Man, yeah, you could kind of weasel out of it and say, well, we don't have a problem with his message. We believe in a variety of viewpoints, and we disagree with a lot of things he says, but we're reaching out to all these. No, you are stepping over a line when you become a sponsor of a show like this. And I hope that our audience shares that appreciation. And at least you show that by buying some cigars or some merchandise, like this wonderful Freedom Adam versus the Man mug. You can get it at adamversustheman.com, as well as joining our producers club there. By the way, there's the promo code gets you 15% off and free shipping. Yeah. So you give us $10 a month. You can find that link, both of those links, to the store and to the producers club at adamversustheman.com. So Jim, we got to get to some news before we get to our guest in just about 20 minutes. But first, let's check in with the comments. How's the audience doing this morning?
Yeah, they're doing good. Everybody's with us. 1054 has a good question that I was wanting to get your opinion on too, because it's kind of a scary thing with this when we're coming back to YouTube and everything. He's saying that realistically, there's no way to avoid YouTube's third strike. It's going to happen at some point. Are you worried about getting a strike and getting your channel permanently deleted from them, getting all your videos taken down? I mean, that's huge, man. And if we don't change anything, he's probably right. If we keep talking like we're talking and we keep doing what we're doing, it's logic dictates that a third strike is around the corner, and that's something that I don't think you want to really.
Yeah. Well, first about the strike system on YouTube. Strikes expire after 90 days. I think it is. There is a period by which strikes expire off your account, and the critical point of getting totally banned and having your channel deleted, which is what we want to avoid, excuse me, is 3 strikes within a 90-day period. So our new format that we're launching on Monday, I'll just say, is designed to ensure that we avoid any further strikes. But yeah, we are taking a risk by posting anything at all on YouTube while we have 2 strikes. And our elder strike, of our current 2 strikes on the account, our senior strike expires December 10. And it's sort of like we've got from next October, no, like a month and a half, we would have to wait to be on YouTube with only to go back to that 1 strike safety zone, right? Although the thing about this, it's like if you have one, when you put out so much content, they can give you 3 strikes whenever they want, right? Like they could right now go back and look at one of my old videos that's been up there for years and give me a strike based on that. Oh yeah, we just never looked at it. It finally got flagged and came to our attention that this video that you did 10 years ago violates our community guidelines. So here's strike number 3. Yeah. So CJ said in producer CJ in the chat said this morning, just now, we need a new channel for the show to protect the archive. That's my idea. It's not ideal, but it's not like it's going to kill our live audience that much, if at all. So we might just do that for so we're sort of respecting the ban, but create a separate channel. CJ, let's talk about that after the show today. But I think that's what we're going to do for Monday. So like between Monday and December 10th, we might be coming to you on Adam versus the Man Channel 2 or Adam versus the Man Backup on YouTube. So and really, and someone was saying it's not going to hurt our live audience because YouTube doesn't give people alerts when we go live on our channel with 250,000 subs anyway. So hey, we might even get better traffic with a brand new channel. Who knows? But yeah, for our live audience, just remember AdamVersusTheMan.com. I know we were a little late today. My apologies, a little late getting started, but we're there 9 to 11 a.m. live Monday through Friday, and it's this fighting censorship is kind of like this dumb whack-a-mole game. Like, oh, we got banned on this platform, then we go to this platform, then we go to this platform, then we go to this platform, and even with email, I used to use MailChimp, and I got censored off MailChimp. And I've seen that happen to other people recently. I was like, I told you, you can't even rely on basic email services to not censor political messages. I mean, that's scary. But I'm fairly confident. I mean, the only way they take websites down is like FBI takedown. They put that DMCA or whatever, Digital Millennium Copyright Act notice, and they will take down websites. But I think that's the one place where we're the safest is AdamVersusTheMan.com. And what I would ask of my audience, of all of you listening, to anyone who could hear my voice right now, stop relying on any of our social media outlets to notify you of our content. And we're, as we grow the show and develop our business here, if we get some interns, that kind of thing, we make enough money to, hire a full-time assistant for all of us right now who are volunteering to make the show happen, then we can get an email list going for this. We can have, other means of notifying people, maybe an app, push notifications when we put out clips. But yeah, CJ says, even if we are late going live, we are always here in the chat or backstage in StreamYard prior to the show. So even if we are late, if you're in the Producers Club, you can find out why. And it's a fun way to watch the show through StreamYard, and that link is there. So Jim, any other, now I feel like I've got a whole bunch of other loose threads hanging out here.
Yeah, we got a bunch of comments. I'll just give you one more. I know you want to get to some news, at least a couple of news clips.
By the way, Jim, it came, CJ after the show yesterday said you skipped one of the most important hater comments, that like Adam looks high and tired or drugged out or something, and it's like,
yeah, there was a troll comment in there. I was gonna bring it up, but it didn't go with the flow. I don't know. We ended up doing something else.
I thrive on your hatred. I feed on it. I draw strength from your anger. Give it to me in the comments, Jim.
Okay, I'll bring it. I don't have anything right now, but I have a good one from Festerfink. He has the best. Well, let's start with Mercedes says we should call tomorrow's show Think It Out Thursday. I considered Therapy Thursday if we're going to do a show like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he said, Festerfink says, hug life, people. Give a hug to someone today. That's the best therapy right there.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that free hugs has become a part of my activism, if only a small part. But so here's the contest today, Jim. Here's the contest. For anybody who's watching live right now who is not already a member of the Producers Club, if you send us a link during the show today, that we end up using tomorrow in our special episode, Suicide Statistics and Corona, then you win membership in the Anna versus the Man Producers Club, valued at $10 a month. So I really want help with this, guys. I was tempted. Like, I could have done this as a a 30-minute block and try to run through these 10 links I've got pulled up in a few minutes. So CJ says, how do they send us a link? Put it in the comments. Jim can just cut and paste a link out of your comments there and pull it up on his screen, and then tell me. Actually, he could put it on the broadcast screen as well through StreamYard. So yeah, I mean, help me out here. Help humanity. Let's develop this and make this a really important and effective show for tomorrow. All right, what else we got for comments?
Empty Matter already lost. Got a busy day at work. So I already lost again. Busy day at work. But he'll try.
Right, well, okay, so by the way, one of the I'm going to share just a couple of headlines from my block tomorrow. One of them is called COVID Mental Health in Animals, and it's about the therapy value of having pets. Another one is, let's see, how you can help prevent suicide during the COVID-19 pandemic. So you might not have to, like, if you could win this contest without even looking something new up. Yay, there's Falcor, Jim's therapy dog. Yeah.
Having pets is very therapeutic.
Yeah, having animals around.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no way to avoid it. Having animals around is good for people. Always. So, well, I mean, unless they're lions and tigers and bears, but other than that, so okay. Maybe you have some, like, I'm gonna do a vitamin segment tomorrow. I'm gonna explain what it means for Adam Kokesh to be a vitamin junkie. So, if you maybe you just have some mental health resource that you want to share that's related to this, and if that's the case, just send me the link. So you can email it to me if you're not watching this live. If you're watching it live, you can put it in one of the comments. Jim, what's the best place for comments?
Well, it doesn't matter. They all come up. I suppose your Twitter feed or your Periscope is what most people seem to be watching on right now. Or they can go to CJ's YouTube is where we're streaming. Just to keep it on YouTube.
Awesome. All right, well then let's get into the news today. Our first headline. Our first headline today comes from MiddleEasy.com. I don't think we've ever done a story from this website. The headline: Joe Rogan indefinitely suspends production of JRE, that's his podcast, Joe Rogan Experience, #1 in the world, after young Jamie tests positive for COVID-19. A member of Joe Rogan's staff was infected with COVID-19, which forced Rogan to stop production of his popular podcast. Now, there's some context to this that's necessary. The story starts with the Joe Rogan Experience podcast made the move earlier this year to stream exclusively on Spotify as one of the biggest podcasts on earth. It simply seemed right that Spotify would dive in and place exclusivity on the massive entity, especially with all the absorbing business that company has been doing lately. Rogan signed a massive deal with the company that changed the landscape of podcasting over. Now Rogan will be stopping the production of a show due to COVID-19. Now this is this was widely advertised or discussed as a $100 million contract. Now that's probably over decades, or hypothetically max commissions, whatever like that. But it is at very least a multi-million-dollar contract. Probably in the tens of millions that Rogan is getting just for signing over to Spotify. And one of the fun ways in which this story involves me directly is that I was on one of the early episodes of the Joe Rogan Experience, number 235, and he told me after that episode, we're doing it, and right afterwards he's got a comedy show that night, and he gives me as many tickets as I want. So I invite all my LA friends and a date, and we got to see his comedy show. He came up to me after the show and was like, like 5 minutes later, I mean, you sit down for 3 hours, you get up to go to the bathroom right away afterwards. We talked after that, and he said, "Hey man, that was a great episode already. Definitely one of the top 5 we've ever done. Getting great feedback. Thank you so much. We're definitely going to have you back on again. Here's my cell phone number. Let's stay in touch." When you have a podcast as big as Joe Rogan's, there are a lot of they, them, those who have an interest in controlling your message. And I don't want to make this personal, because Joe Rogan is like if you want to call me a celebrity, check out my Wikipedia page, ladies. If you want to call me a celebrity, I get it. I'm like D-list, and by the way, trying to calculate like what's my name ID is a really fun exercise with all the mainstream media stories I've done and been in and interviews. But I get it. I like Joe Rogan, different level of celebrity. If he changes his phone number and I'm not on the cool kids list who gets, one of the people who gets the new number, that could be it. But then when we saw Spotify sign him to be the exclusive host of the Joe Rogan Experience, and they moved his archive over to Spotify, for some reason my episode didn't make it into the new archive. What do you know? And a number of other controversial episodes didn't either. And they all said it was a technical issue. I call bullshit from the beginning on. Like, you're a company, Spotify, who can pay Joe Rogan millions, possibly $100 million for his podcast, and yet you can't manage transferring audio files and hosting. Like, that's kind of your fucking job. You go, that's your excuse for censorship. And now we see that there's actually a deliberate effort within Spotify from employees there to censor Joe Rogan, to control his message. So about this, the announcement, Joe Rogan announces suspension. Rogan and his team continue to produce episodes of the Joe Rogan Experience all throughout the global pandemic. Joe has even continued his UFC commentary position while the organization took proper protocol to navigate coronavirus. However, Rogan took to social media to announce that a member of his team has tested positive for the virus, that's stopping the production of the show indefinitely. So he did this on Instagram. So here's the quote from Rogan on Instagram. Young at Jamie Vernon tested positive for COVID-19. I tested negative, and the rest of the staff tested negative, but we're shutting everything down until we get an all clear from our doctor. I was out of town last week, and the shows that aired had all been previously recorded, so I haven't had any contact with Jamie in the past 9 days, except for briefly today. But I'm staying away from everyone and being tested every day until I know I'm in the clear. I'll keep you folks posted as to when the show will resume, wrote Rogan on Instagram. So a little more background from the story here. Spotify and the Joe Rogan Experience. Recently, fans of the program have expressed their desire to cancel their Spotify subscriptions if the Joe Rogan Experience continues with its censorship. Furthermore, employees of Spotify have threatened to leave the company if they don't have control over the content. With so much pulling of the ropes on the other end, Rogan has found himself in a tug of war. Now, I mean, I don't want to condemn Joe himself, even if he's doing something that here is clearly a shitty thing. You don't get as big as him without people pointing guns at you saying, "Ha, you're not going to have that kind of guest on anymore." Or subtle manipulation, maybe people around you. Now, there's also this, trying to balance things. Like, it could, would he sell out for $100 million? By the way, I would stop doing Adam versus the Man entirely for 100. By the way, in case the CIA or FBI are listening, or the NSA, you want to drop $100 million in my bank account? I'll probably shut up and disappear. I could use that money for better things, even for the cause of freedom. So, again, I don't want to blame Joe specifically, but the last sentence in the story is, as he attempts to put safety first, it seems like the Spotify endeavor is off to an inadequate inauguration and feels like a bad omen for fans of the show. Yeah, and not only the sudden drop in consistency now that he's suspending production, but I think, as an occasional listener of the Joe Rogan Experience, there's a kind of quality to it of Joe Rogan being a kind of a regular dude you can trust, kind of a cool uncle or a big brother figure for a lot of dudes in his audience. And if you lose that confidence in your audience for a show as big as Joe's, you could see you could see the end of the era of the Joe Rogan Experience. Like Joe's, I don't want to say his career is on the line, but really the momentum and value of his audience for the Joe Rogan Experience might be on the line right now with all of this. Now, here's the bigger story that nobody else is talking about. Why is this happening right now? Why is because there's no reason to suspend production. One guy tested positive. Okay, so he works remotely. Everybody else goes to work as planned. You haven't been in contact with him for 9 days. It's not like the surface he touched 2 weeks ago is going to have live viruses on it. No. First of all, I got to call bullshit on canceling or suspending the production of the Joe Rogan Experience entirely. This is bullshit. And I've said from the beginning that the coronavirus is that excuse for so many people to do things they wanted to do already but didn't have the excuse to do. So why? Again, why is this happening now? Joe Rogan was scheduled to have Kanye West, the rapper, the uber celebrity Kanye West, Yeezus himself, Yeezy, on the Joe Rogan Experience live tomorrow. And they were actually making a big deal out about promoting this in advance. Their little gimmick was, Kanye, I get to design the set of the podcast for my episode. I mean, that would be like me saying, hey, Joe, when you have me on again in Austin, he's like, Joe Rogan's never going to have me on again. I get to put up, my posters of the Freedom logo all over your studio. And Joe said, sure, Kanye, yeah, you want to design my set for one podcast? Sure. Like, this was not just another episode of the Joe Rogan Experience. This was a big one. And why is it so big? It's not just because Kanye's the uber celebrity that he is, and people would naturally look forward to hearing. I just, as a casual fan of Kanye, I check out my Pandora. There's some Kanye West in there, but watching him in the news, to get it like an honest piece of his mind through Joe Rogan, to sit down and talk to Kanye for 3 hours, I'm interested in that. But that's not why this episode would have been special. The outcome of the 2020 presidential election hangs in the balance and may actually hinge on this episode happening or not. If Joe Rogan says, hey, this is an important episode, we can't let this one go, we're going to do this one remotely, but he said we're suspending production. That's not going to happen. Now, why is Kanye on Joe Rogan relevant to the 2020 presidential election? Kanye is running for president in 2020 himself, believe it or not. If you hadn't heard, yeah. And he's not running a serious campaign. he's running a name ID and have fun and sell merchandise and throw the electoral college to Trump kind of campaign. He is on enough ballots. I believe if you add up Michigan, Iowa, Colorado, a few others that he's on, which are critical battleground states, if Kanye sucks enough votes from Biden, it could throw those critical battleground states to Trump. We've covered this. I'm not going to take too long explaining all the political mechanics of this. But since I first learned of the Kanye campaign, I said, "Oh yeah, this is a Trump ploy." You go back, you look at Kanye visiting Trump at the White House, and and then condemning him, and then now running against him. He's not running to win. He literally could not win without a freak, implausible national write-in campaign to win states where he's not even on the ballot. Kanye West is not going to be president next year. Shocking, I know. But back to the main part of the story, it's a little suspicious that the Joe Rogan Experience, after selling out to Spotify, suspends production right before a major interview that could throw the election to Trump. Like, by itself. Really, of course, with all the work that Republican operatives have done on Kanye's campaign to get him on the ballot in these battleground states. But really, the story could be, and then Kanye went on Rogan. And that was the October surprise. That's what did it. Now, remember, Rogan sort of casually endorsed Bernie Sanders in this race. So I wouldn't be surprised if, and it's, to me, it's weird that someone like Joe Rogan sort of keeps his political cards close to his chest. When you have such a big audience and the potential, like this is what I said when he interviewed me, like, Joe, you have the potential to be a hero, to be a leader in a movement for justice and advancing humanity. And he was like, no, I'd rather just be a celebrity. So it could be him, could be Spotify, could be someone else, but there are a lot of the biggest, most powerful forces in the world. We're paying attention to this upcoming Kanye Rogan interview that looks like it's not going to happen. What's actually behind this, we might not know for a long time, but if more information comes out, we're definitely going to cover it. And Kanye, if you're looking for a podcast to come on remotely, perhaps with no risk of getting corona, we'd love to have you on Adam versus the Man, just to see what happens, to see why you're being censored right now. All right, and with that, we've got our guest ready.
You just got to figure out a way to avoid all the pitfalls in life that can keep you from accomplishing that or going in that direction. Everybody's is different. You just got to find it. You dirty bitches, this is not a fucking self-help show. All right? What have you done to me? Dude, thank you very much for coming on, man. We haven't
talked about masturbating for like an hour now.
Well, that's a good amount of time to take off. If you ever want to come back and do it again, man, let's do it again. Do it again in the future. If you're ever in LA again. And now that you're a legal medical patient, I'm sure you have to come back to get medicated. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you, Adam Kokesh. Please watch his podcast.
AdamVersusTheMan.com.
AdamVersusTheMan.com. Follow him on Twitter.
Got you playing that clip. Thank you. Thank you, CJ, for including that. You heard it right there, straight from the horse's mouth. Adam, if you ever want to come on again, just limit. He even said it on the air before the episode had finished that he wanted me to be a repeat guest. And then somebody got to him and said, no. That message isn't, no, we don't want people to understand freedom and libertarianism. We want people to get our manipulated politicized version of. You can interview Gary Johnson, but no, you can't talk to Adam Kokesh again. All right, so our guest now. I apologize, Travis. Thank you so much for your patience. Travis has been really looking forward to this interview, and we've been texting, so I'm really excited about this. Ladies and gentlemen, joining us today from North Carolina, Travis Grew, running for Senate as a Libertarian. Travis, thank you so much for joining us. How you doing, brother?
Howdy. How you doing, Adam?
Excellent,
good,
excellent.
I've been up since 5:15, man. I went to work out this morning, and when I was driving there, it was so foggy that you couldn't see anything on the roads, man. It was like dangerously foggy. But thank you for having me on. I decided to wear my cowboy hat today, and I'm really excited about this show, man. Thank you, Adam.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. So, Travis, before we get into your race, give us your your bio from your website. What does our audience need to know about you?
Well, I'm really running on a freedom platform, a liberty platform, and I have three main issues. My top one, because I have two kids, and like all parents, I want what is best for my kids. So I'm a big proponent of localizing schools and having the money follow the children, and a big school choice proponent. So both of my kids go to private school, and I like that because I'm not a huge fan of public schooling. And so that's my main thing is giving parents, all parents and teachers, more power and more control over the classroom sizes, how they teach, getting away from the government schooling. And if a school is not working well for your family, if a government school is not working well, there should be many, many options to go elsewhere. And so in my case, I'm not a fan of government schooling, so we're doing private school. So that's one issue. And I don't know how you feel about school choice, but
well, Travis, actually, if I may interrupt, and don't worry, we'll get time to finish all your points there. But I'm not a grammar Nazi, but I'm a definition Nazi.
Right.
Wait a second. I'm not any kind of Nazi. But I'm the opposite. But no, I am a stickler for precision in language.
Right.
And one of the things, and so I want to make a little messaging suggestion to you here, because this is I think this is an important issue, and I think it's really important that libertarians don't feed into language that serves authority, right? And one of them, you said your kids go to private school. Now, I mean, that's great, but does your children's school not accept applications from anybody? Because if it does, then technically it's public too. Like, it's a public business. It's open to the public, right? And I would just, when we say public versus private schools, I think we're feeding into the government education paradigm as opposed to the nonviolent, community-based, actually support our children education-centered paradigm. So I would. Do you think you'd be better calling them non-government schools? I think that helps us make our point as libertarians, that you could send your kids to government schools and trust the government, or you could send them to non-government schools or unschool or homeschool. And when you say it's public, it's kind of reinforcing this idea that our government schools are just public resources as opposed to forced indoctrination centers. Yeah?
No, I completely agree. And it is government schooling that we're getting away from. And so I fully support people being able to put their kids in whatever school that they choose. So school choice is sort of the lingo for it. And so right now there's a system, a voucher system, where the money follows the children, not so much the bureaucrats in the schools. So if a government school is failing, the money that would go to the kids would follow them to the private school. Does that make sense? And so I'm a big supporter of that. And we didn't get the Department of Education so big overnight. And so I believe that we have to chip at it to allow all families more options to be able to educate their kids better and put more power in the parents' hands. And that's why I use authority and power, is that should be in the parents' hands to, control, I guess, how their kids are educated, where they're educated, and when they're educated, whether that be homeschool, charter school, or even private school or non-government schools, as you like to say, or government schools could be an option. But I find that statistically people are straying away from government schools more and more every year. And so it's a trend that's happening. So that's one of my issues.
Awesome.
All
All
right.
right. So,
Here in North Carolina is the ABC system. The government, the state controls the alcohol industry. So I'm sure you've heard this before, but it's so convoluted and so complicated. They choose and pick and choose winners and losers, and they only give certain people shelf space. So if you have a good product, you have to run it through the state in order to have a business. So we want to privatize that as well.
Yeah. Well, I would say that it's making it open to the public and competition. Again, I don't know. Man, those words, I want to use more effective messaging. But yeah, no, I'm 100% with you there. And there are some states where only the state government is allowed to run liquor stores. If you didn't know this, by the way, it's kind of like pumping gas. By the way, there's this freak thing in the United States where in Oregon and New Jersey, there's only 2 states, you're not allowed to pump your own gas at a gas station. What the land?
Where is this at?
Oregon and New Jersey, as far as I know, are the only 2 states. But yeah, we're not, and in New Hampshire and a handful of other states, it's the states themselves that run the liquor stores. What?
Well, that's happening in North Carolina. That's exactly what's happening in North Carolina. When COVID all went down, the alcohol stores were open because it's run by the state, and the profit margins were through the roof. The state made so much money during this COVID shutdown.
Yeah. Oh no, I hate to
open, but bars weren't allowed to open. But the state-run ABC stores were allowed to open. So everyone was just stocking up and giving the state's money, giving the state of North Carolina money to buy. They were profiting on the shutdown.
And Travis, I have to point out, because tomorrow we're doing a big show on mental health with COVID and statistics and the death stats. We're calling it statistics, suicide, and corona. But what you're pointing out in North Carolina presents another disturbing wrinkle of this. Forcing people to stay home, but giving them easy access to drugs. And by drugs, I mean alcohol. And of course, all the other drugs as well, right? But particularly promoting, in this sense, by incentivization and availability, one of the most dangerous, by really any metric of negative effects, the most destructive drug in America, alcohol, promoting that, which is a depressant, when depression and anxiety and suicidal ideations are at an all-time high. It really represents a sort of twisted wrinkle to this story that the state of North Carolina used this as an excuse, or is using corona for this kind of manipulation. Now, Travis, I got to ask at least one more question by way of personal background, because you're wearing a cowboy hat. You were born and raised in Texas, so you are officially authorized to do so. But most people, and according to your bio, you've lived all across the South. Most people who move to Texas say things like, "Hey, I'm not from Texas originally, but I got here as soon as I could," and we're putting on that nice fake accent to blend in. But you left Texas for North Carolina, where you have this particularly evil government. Not that the government of Texas is not also particularly evil, But I traveled the country, and I chose Arizona very carefully for all my reasons. So I would ask you, having lived all over the South, here's your chance to kiss some constituent butt. Why North Carolina? Why Wake County?
Well, I came up here, long story short, didn't really know much about North Carolina, but I actually love it now because I'm 2 hours from the ocean and I'm 3 hours from the mountains. And honestly, it's probably one of the most beautiful states that I've ever lived in. I've also lived in Georgia and Florida. However, taxes are high here, and we have state taxes as well. And that's one of the reasons why I'm running, is to try to make it better and try to abolish some of these regulations that are actually hindering private businesses and small businesses. That's why I'm running. I wouldn't be running for fun, that's for sure. And so there are some problems here with big state and big government issues that are definitely troublesome. So that's why I'm running. But other than that, my kids are here, and so I'm here basically because of family. So I probably would move somewhere without any state taxes, but that's a long time coming, and it's another thing to work on. So I love it here because it's beautiful, the weather's great, and the landscape is great. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Now, I'm going to come back to this family law issue, like right away in our Producers Club chat. Our friend Chris Cole, Victims of Family Law, has a question, and so does our producer CJ. But before I ask those questions, one more for background. Running to represent Wake County in the North Carolina Senate, what's your, how many constituents in the district? What's the demographic breakdown like? And why did you choose this race?
Well, I am the vice chair of the Libertarian Party of Wake County, which is the county seat of North Carolina. So everything pretty much happens in Wake County and in Raleigh. And I chose Senate 17 because, first of all, I live in this district, which is about 450,000 constituents. It's a very large area in all of southern Wake County. And I chose this race because obviously I want to make a difference and change up a few things and make it freer and promote our ideals of libertarianism. And, if we don't do it, if we don't stand up and run for office, then it's going to be either Republican or Democrat. And so I've been out at the polls. I've been talking to people. I've been handing out my card, our voter guides, running ads on Facebook, and trying to raise money to make a difference, to spread the message of liberty and hope and freedom for this area. And I really believe it's catching on. And I really believe that the Libertarian Party of Wake County is making a difference. We are moving and shaking this area for the better. We're pushing Jo Jorgensen, and I'm on her team as well in North Carolina. And so we're doing everything we can to help spread the message of libertarianism and make that more aware. We actually have the most registered libertarians in Wake County than all of the entire state. There's over 6,000 registered libertarians in Wake County.
Nice.
We're growing. We're doing well. I'm happy. So I'm going to keep going and keep moving. And so being on a show like this is certainly helpful. So thank you.
6,000 registered libertarians in a county. That is something special. I do have to point out, though, that I like my libertarians the way I like my guns and my immigrants, unregistered. But yeah, to your point of, if not us, who? If not now, when? It really is a pretty simple imperative to stand up as a libertarian candidate when you understand, why someone like Travis would be running for the seat. Now, Travis, I got a couple questions here. We're going to get to these about family law. So CJ, our producer, and I know you touched on some of this, but he wrote in the producers chat, I would like to know where he stands on family law and family court. Is there anything in North Carolina that he would point to as an issue?
Well, I went through some family law issues, and it is very biased. I hate to say it, but it's biased towards the mothers a lot of times in at least this county. And the child support system is out of whack. Somehow women can get around not having to work and put in 50-50 amount of effort, and it all ends up falling on the man to support not only your ex but also the kids. And this is definitely a hot topic in North Carolina, and these laws that were put into place for child support date back to like the early 80s, when typically women didn't necessarily work as much, and it was more of the norm for the man to go to work and the woman to stay at home with the kids and be a stay-at-home mom. That's basically how the child support system was created. Now it's not like that anymore. A lot of women want to go to work, and they want to have careers, and they want to better themselves or whatever, or go to college and get a career. The same laws are still in effect today, when all I really want is 50-50. And I think that's what a lot of upset men are struggling with, is they just want fairness, and they just want 50-50 effort, 50-50 custody, 50-50 financial, the financial burden of raising your kids. So I don't think it gets any more fair than 50-50. That's where I would that's what I would push for, is 50-50 everything.
Yeah. No, and this is a huge, complicated issue. It's kind of difficult to even talk about in a way, because it's one of these issues that gets swept under the rug, because a lot of people are embarrassed to talk about their experience. That they're sort of shamed into silence, because if you come out, you can easily be misrepresented as a deadbeat dad or a bad mom, or someone weaponizing the state against their partner. And it's not just divorces. It's how we deal with children as well. And one of the headlines we're going to cover today is Child Protective Services trafficking children? And the answer is, oh yeah. Not obviously in a very obvious official way, but covert. What are they really doing? Yeah, they're trafficking children. And I'm very grateful for my friend Chris Cole, who has done an amazing job with Victims of Family Law, bringing this very under-discussed but critical issue, because it's almost every American. 90+% easily have either been through a bad divorce, been a child of divorce, in any of those contexts, had the state weaponized against them, had CPS or DCF or whatever other state alphabet soup agency come and threaten or take your kids away, or just threaten to take your kids away. I think how many Americans are affected directly? Really kind of hard to count, but indirectly, if you go to 1 degree removed, either you got someone in your immediate family who's gone through some family law kind of horrific experience. I'd say it's got to be close to 99% of the population. Everybody's knows somebody or has someone in their in their family or extended family or their business or community who's had their quality of life ruined or hugely reduced, at least because of a family law issue. So Chris Cole is one of our producers. And again, if you want to look it up, Victims of Family Law, it's a great group.
I'm friends with Chris.
Okay, yeah, I figured.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I know you guys. Got to hang out in Orlando at the Libertarian National Convention. Very cool.
Definitely,
So,
Chris is one of my friends. So yeah.
In our chat today, Chris writes, ask Travis what his experience is being a victim of family law and his help with us getting the plank revision of 1.6 revised in Orlando. I know you touched on some of that, but anything you could say in response to that, please, Travis.
Well, unfortunately, the way the convention went in Orlando, we weren't even able to make the pitch. We weren't able to propose it. So I would say have some people look over it, and in order to get that plank revised, it's going to have to be 2022 in Reno. And hopefully we can get to it, because I think the revision is important. It's more defined. It reads better and it's more fair. I can't remember the exact wording of it, but we worked on it in Orlando. Unfortunately, the way it went, we weren't able to propose it. And I fully support the plank revision. If you could put it on the screen, that would help. But it does need to be more defined and more relevant than how it states right now, which is slightly vague.
Yeah, Travis, before we get too inside baseball on that, maybe CJ or Chris can send a link and we can get the actual text of that pulled up, because it is important. And hey, look at this already there. So this was it, the Libertarian Platform 1.6 parental rights. Parents or other guardians have the right to raise their children according to their own standards and beliefs, provided that the rights of children to be free from abuse and neglect are also protected. We support. Get it back on screen, CJ. I'm actually reading it.
Sorry, Adam.
Where'd it go?
Sorry, guys. So let me just. I'm sorry I had to get in on this. This was actually the original. It's not the actual final product that you guys came up with everybody. I do want to put it on the screen for you guys. I met you there in North Carolina as well, Travis. It's good to see you. I think that this is important. The Title IV D&E part of this, we excluded, but you can basically get the gist of what it was trying to say. This wasn't the final, so maybe before this interview's out, I'll just throw it on the screen. You guys will see it, and we'll just.
CJ, that's great. That's enough, because the details of the text are not critical to this interview or to making the point here, right? But I'm grateful for the work of Chris Cole and his team with Victims of Family Law for raising this issue within the Libertarian Party, because it's a difficult issue to talk about emotionally for a lot of people. It's not something that a lot of the Republicans and Democrats aren't talking about this at all. And for libertarians to take leadership, even just raising this issue more and more, that, the day before yesterday, we had Toy Johnson on, running in Iowa for state rep, proposing to just abolish DCF, to say, you know what, there's, and she's got a sort of libertarian compromise position to say, this is, we can rebuild an agency to perform these, legitimate functions that are good to protect children. But what it is now, no, we're better off just getting rid of it and starting over. And I think that's, I don't know how much more we want to get into that, but I'm grateful that that Victims of Family Law as a cause and as an organization, they're stepping up and supporting candidates. And one of Chris's projects right now is to get the website up as a resource for libertarian candidates. Because, like, even for me, when I was running for president, I go, well, isn't that a state issue? And you go, no, this kind of evil doesn't just coincidentally happen in all 50 states with federal money without any federal policy behind. Yeah, there's a lot of federal stuff feeding into this national child trafficking problem. And I'll just say one other thing to back this up statistically. And that headline I cited a couple minutes ago, it's something like 86% victims of child sex trafficking come out of foster care programs, government foster care programs. Pretty sick. So anyway, I'll just read the last sentence here on the parental rights plank. The individual has the right to record all public hearings in family courts. There's so many things like that. You can't say anything about a judge or the court or be critical of the process if you have a pending custody case. It's one of the most, or pending divorce, and due process doesn't exist in a lot of these family court situations. Transparency doesn't exist. So Travis, I don't know if you want to speak to any of that, please, take a few minutes about the importance of the issue. And if there's anything else you want to share about your personal experience or how this is affecting your constituents.
No, it's a very important issue, and you're right. It is a very sensitive issue because people like to get one-sided on it. But like I said, it takes a sperm and an egg to make a baby, and so I don't know how much more 50-50 that can get. So when it comes to raising your kids, now if you want to give up a portion of your...
Hold on, Travis. I will play the politically correct kiss women's butt card here and say, no, the biological investment of me just doing what I do anyway and not pulling out versus actually carrying a baby to term. It's more like 99.99 woman to man ratio and biological effort. But no, your point is well taken, and
Well,
I don't think we need.
Was if a woman or a man wants to give up a portion of their custody or their rights voluntarily, say I voluntarily only want them 20% of the time. Okay,
Right.
Well then that's fine. That's on you. But for the courts to make that decision and ram that down your throats, whether you like it or not, is wrong. For them to withhold custody from a parent when a father or a mother really wants to hang out with their kids, because it happens to women too. I know a few women who pay child support, and so it does happen. But I think it should be completely a private situation where it's two people making a decision to raise their kids one way or the other. And then if one person wants to sue another person, then that's different. That's a private court. But the systemic laws involved are out of date. They're really out of date because in today's society, most of the time you have two people working full-time jobs in a household to just even be able to afford kids in a house. And so I think that a lot of times the man does get stuck with the bill and gets their parental rights taken from them. And I appreciate the work of Chris Cole bringing this to light, and for you, Adam Kokesh, to have, to be pushing this forward. It is a problem. And there's been a few people that are trying to rewrite some of the child support laws that are really out of date. And I hope that they're successful because it needs to happen. It needs to be modernized, if anything, because it is complicated because you're talking about small kids that can't take care of themselves. Somebody has to take care of them. But
just a little sort of comparison, historical context for our audience on a little bit of libertarian messaging and strategery thinking. jumping ahead to, we end the show every day with good news on this day in history. And one of them today is that in 1921, Warren G. Harding delivered the first speech by a sitting U.S. president. Yeah, when I said that name, did you even remember that Warren G. Harding was president? Yeah, one of our most forgotten leaders, right? That condemned the lynching of African Americans in the Deep South, despite evidence of wide opposition among white voters. Now, a lot of what we're doing as libertarians is a kind of championing of popular ideas. Everybody wants freedom, but you could look at this in another way and say that, no, as libertarians, we're not going out to be populists, to pander and say, we'll say whatever it takes to get elected. We're running to actually fundamentally change things. And sometimes you can do that with a populist message, but sometimes, like Harding, you have to step out and say things knowing that it's unpopular today, but you have faith in humanity in waking up to this issue and that they're going to come on to the right side of it. When you're on the right side of history, you have a lot more confidence in standing against the herd. So my last question for you, Travis, and of course, feel free to touch on any of that. Kind of a two-parter. One, how is your message resonating, particularly around the family law issue? But I do want to point out that on your website, groofornc.org or groofornc.org if you want to mispronounce it. And by the way, that's GROO, but groo4 spelled out NC, groofornc.org. You say your priorities are education opportunities, alcohol, and beverage choice, and housing affordability. But the victims of family law is kind of tied up in the education and obviously family issues and all that. And so I want to ask, how is this message and your message overall resonating with voters in North Carolina? And how has your ability to connect with them been impacted by COVID?
I really believe my message has resonated very positively with voters here. And unfortunately, we keep hearing this election is way too important to vote third party right now. If it wasn't so important, I would vote for you. Or some of them are saying, I am going to vote for you because we do want change. We do want more than two parties, and we like what you're saying. And as far as the COVID thing that that's been restrictive is we just haven't had any in-person debates. We haven't had any in-person forums. Some of them have been in Zoom, and we haven't done much door-to-door canvassing. But other than that, it really hasn't been too much different. It's been a lot more social media stuff and a lot more perfecting your messaging and your wording of things. But it hasn't been that much different. I mean, honestly, it's marketing anyway. Campaigning is marketing yourself. And so the one thing we haven't been able to do is have in-person, campaign events and go to campaign events. Certain bars and restaurants will usually host candidates. We haven't done any of that. So it's going to be really interesting to see how the turnout is on November 3rd. I still think the two parties scare everybody every 2 to 4 years and say that this is the most important election of our lifetimes. So they get you polarized. And that is the problem. Is I don't know how many times I've heard this is the most important election of our lifetime. Don't let the other side win. And some people believe that. So I don't know how third parties and the Libertarian Party is going to pan out compared to 2016. But I really believe it's better because people are waking up to the truth, and they are waking up to the idea of freedom and liberty away from the duopoly And so I think we're doing good. I really do. There's so many good candidates across this country that are working super hard and doing a really fantastic job. And our top of the ticket is really, really good. I'm honored to say that Spike endorsed me. Joe endorsed me. I was endorsed by the Libertarian Party Radical Caucus. I was also endorsed by Ken Armstrong for president. So there's people noticing what we're doing here in Wake County, and I'm very thankful for it and thankful to be on this show. So thank you so much.
Well, Travis, before we let you go, I got one more question I got to ask from our producers club, and you want to make this quick if you like. But Festerfink asks, what is the status of cannabis legalization in North Carolina, and do you have any role in it?
Well, unfortunately, we have it's not legalized here, and it's not regulated. It's very illegal here, and we are sort of in the Bible Belt here, and so it's an uphill battle. We've got some people, just like the ABC laws and the liquor laws, they're enforcing prohibition.
Yeah, you're still trying to deregulate alcohol. You're still trying to decriminalize alcohol sales, essentially, right? Because I mean, I hope I'm not exaggerating, but technically, it's criminal, right, for an individual to sell alcohol in the state.
Correct.
Right? I mean, you sell your neighbor a bottle, no one's going to care. I'm not trying to pretend like, but like they're cracking down like with other drugs dealing. But yeah, they're still. Yeah, Festerfink, they're a little bit behind in North Carolina. So, Travis, you've got my endorsement. If that wasn't clear enough, if it helps you at all to add my name to that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
August list.
I'm a big fan.
Awesome. All right, so Travis, thank you for joining us. And aside from your website, Grew, and again spelled the fun way, not like the word. Past tense of grow, GROO, Grew 4NC. If you can't remember, I'm going to say I'm going to mispronounce your website again just to get people to remember it. Groof Ornk. That's Grew, his last name, FOR, North Carolina, NC. Groof Ornk. All right, so Travis, thanks for joining us. Any final thoughts this morning?
Thank you for the plug. And thank you for having me on. And I really appreciate everything you're doing. And I'm liking seeing this show grow. And I think you should invite Joe Rogan on your show to see if he'll come on. That'd be really, really cool.
Oh, yeah. Standing invite. We'll see. Thank you so much for joining us, Travis. Best of luck in your race.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
All right. That was a lot of fun. Thank you to the Producers Club for those questions. We just got it. We're going to, we got a big grab bag. But we do have some important stories. Let's just get into them, see how many we get through in the next 20 or so minutes here. Then we'll check in with your comments. And again, I will remind the audience tomorrow, big special episode, single topic show. And it's a lot of topics that are related. We're going to talk about I'm going to do my vitamin junkie segment, but the title I'm thinking for tomorrow's show is Statistics, Suicides, and Corona. So if you have any related links that you want me to include in this, whether it's some mental health resource that you're into, I mean, I don't know, maybe even your favorite AMSR or ASMR, whatever it is, kind of channel, or satisfying videos, whatever it is that you've been doing, I hope everybody's putting just a little bit more attention into their mental health, given the stress that we're all under with the coronaphobia pandemic. So if you share a link in the comments right now, between now and the end of the show, if you're watching live and we end up using it tomorrow, I mean, we'll probably just look at the links and tell you live on the, oh yeah, we're going to use that. So if you can help us out editorially here, you can win membership in the Producers Club. And that's right, valued at $10 a month. A lot of perks. perks, but the main one is being a part of the daily conversation around making the show happen in our Telegram chat. So AdamVersusTheMan.com or Patreon.com/AdamVersusTheMan to get to that directly. So next headline, MarketWatch.com says PayPal will let customers buy cryptocurrencies and use them to shop online. Company plans to initially let users buy and sell Bitcoin, Ethereum, Bitcoin Cash, and Litecoin in the PayPal wallet. Now, just so those of you who aren't familiar with crypto know, that is a seemingly unbiased sample of some of the top cryptos, but there's inevitably going to be some bias here. And I look at, I'm like, wow, this is really good news. This is like, and it's pretty rare for Adam versus the man to come out and say, great news out of corporate America. But this really could be significant. Now, I'm not, going to pretend that all of a sudden PayPal was taken over by activists trying to do the right thing and move humanity forward. But since I've been a promoter of Bitcoin, and I have been from pretty close to the beginning. I mean, I spent a lot of $5 Bitcoins on the Silk Road. I better user than investor. But since I, wrapped my head around Bitcoin and crypto, and it is worth taking. I mean, and by the way, you guys, sidebar on just currency in general. When people complain about Bitcoin, like, well, people aren't going to use Bitcoin, they don't understand it. Really? How many Americans understand how the US dollar system works? Like what, a 0.1% at best? I used to have a bit in speeches where I would joke, if only every American would just ask their parents, Mommy, Daddy, where does money come from? And, and most parents, what would their answer be? Oh, well, from the government, obviously, from the reserve. It says right there on the, that doesn't explain the corruption of our fiat currency system today. So certainly, again, to finish the thought, since I wrapped my head around this idea of a blockchain-based cryptocurrency like Bitcoin, and I consider myself a crypto activist, and that I do want to incorporate, living by our values is an important part of our message as libertarians, and doing everything you can to not feed into the evil of the system is an important part of that. So not using the US dollar when you can avoid it, using crypto instead. I really do believe that eventually crypto will push out fiat currencies. For the first time in human history, we're going to see good money chasing out bad. And what I've been saying is that we're just one killer app away from the flippening, a switch from the dollar as the dominant currency to Bitcoin or some other crypto as the dominant currency. Now, some people refer to the flippening as flipping between cryptos, but obviously there's a bigger flippening here, the flip away from fiat currency to ethical free market money. And when I say the killer app, I don't literally mean the app, although there has to be an app as part of this, but a system. And PayPal might be that system and that killer app. And instead of there be like, not only am I sponsored by Bitcoin.com, but I'm also a user of the Bitcoin.com wallet. And it's an extremely practical wallet for crypto by itself, but it's not a comprehensive killer app that is going to make it easy for every American to start using crypto. Because again, like if you just understand the basics, you could be using a currency that continuously loses value as part of its design to rip you off and serve the super rich, or you could use a currency that is constantly gaining in value because it's engineered that way and is not forced on you. and is not used to rip people off in its design the way that the US dollar is. So if you have it on PayPal, maybe the killer app for Bitcoin is one that's already on your phone. Now, that all being said, I am suspicious. There are going to be some wrinkles. There are going to be plenty of ulterior motives. There might be some, well, now we can track crypto better with this, right? Or the government can. But to the story, let's get into it. PayPal Holdings Inc. plans to allow customers to buy cryptocurrency through their accounts and use cryptocurrency for merchant payments. By the way, one of the innovations that could have been, it was a shot at a killer app, was the Shift card. And basically there was a company, Shift, that would give you a card that functioned as a Visa debit card, and it was attached to a crypto wallet, and the service of Shift would, as you swipe your card, it would pay the debit if you had the money in your crypto account, and then immediately take the money out of your crypto account, right? So you could hold crypto and spend it as dollars. But that didn't take off. Maybe there was a little too much overhead. There's a little too much thinking involved for the average American consumer. But you can use it for merchant payments now. Big shift, right? The company announced Wednesday that it is introducing a way for customers to buy, hold, and sell certain cryptocurrencies within the PayPal wallet. This will roll out over the coming weeks in the US. Initially, PayPal users will be able to buy Bitcoin, Ethereum, Bitcoin Cash, and Litecoin. PayPal intends to bring this function to its Venmo platform and to certain international markets in the first half of next year. Shares are up nearly 5% in morning trading Wednesday, while exchange-traded funds that track the price of cryptocurrencies are up sharply as well. As well, they should be with this news. Starting early next year, PayPal users will be able to use cryptocurrency to pay for goods or services from merchants who accept PayPal. Quote, consumers will be able to instantly convert their selected cryptocurrency balance to fiat currency with certainty of value and no incremental fees, the company said in a release. PayPal argued that this move will significantly increase cryptocurrency's utility. Yeah, that's putting it mildly. PayPal also disclosed in its release that it has obtained a conditional BIT license by the New York State Department of Financial Services. There are places you need permission. It's funny. The BIT license helps encourage, promote, and assist interested institutions to have a well-regulated way to access the New York virtual currency marketplace. No, it's a way for government to be gatekeepers, but that's okay. And that's according to NYDFS Superintendent Linda Lacewell. PayPal Chief Executive Dan Schulman said in the release that PayPal is eager to work with central banks and regulators around the world to offer our support and to meaningfully contribute to shaping the role that digital cryptocurrencies will play in the future of global finance and commerce as we take down your entire racket and ensure that central banks and regulators in effect today soon all lose their jobs. I added that last part. That wasn't in the quote, obviously. Financial technologies have dabbled in cryptocurrency over recent years. PayPal rival Square Inc. first allowed some customers to buy and sell Bitcoin through its app about 3 years ago, and it's rolled out that feature more broadly since then. Wedbush analyst Moshe Katri told MarketWatch that PayPal's new cryptocurrency efforts are likely another monetization tool, but he said that similar to Square's capabilities, PayPal's foray into crypto will probably serve as a pass-through revenue item with no / little margin contribution. Just talking down the competition, I'm sure. PayPal shares have added 15% over the last 3 months as the S&P 500 has only gained 5.7. So is this the killer app for crypto that we have been waiting for? It could very well be, and it is very exciting to see that that cryptocurrency is about to take a major leap forward. How big remains to be seen, but I'll be watching closely and keeping you up to date on this huge development for the world of cryptocurrency. TheDailyBeast.com, Ghislaine Maxwell, or as our producer CJ, who shared the story in the producer club chat, likes to say, Jizz Lane. Yeah. Yeah. Say it the American way, goddammit. The Ghislaine Maxwell deposition discussing sex life and Jeffrey Epstein, ordered released by Thursday at 9 a.m. Now, I have been kind of skipping this story. I'm only covering this because CJ really wanted. CJ's like, Adam, Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, these are, well, he says, Adam, Jizzface and Epstein, these are the most important clickbait stories going on right now. You got to cover this more. I don't want to waste the audience's time. It's kind of my journalistic responsibility, right, to not feed into tabloid news when there's hard news to be reported on. And I was tempted to tell CJ, well, fucking wait till tomorrow then. But yeah, this is what I've been waiting for. So just covering this really quickly, the 400-page plus document has been ordered to be unsealed by Thursday. It is expected to shine unprecedented light on the murky world of Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. And I see that there are a lot of news outlets like the Daily Beast that just want your clickbait headlines, and they've covered every step in this legal process that they can turn into a headline. I've skipped, like, this is the culmination of a significant legal battle and a few other judgments, so that it's finally coming down now. Thursday by 9 a.m. This is coming out. That's tomorrow. Just in time for the next presidential debate. So when this comes out, we're probably going to do a special segment on this with CJ and maybe a couple other guests, do like a mini panel when we. I don't want to read 400 pages of the Ghislaine Maxwell deposition. I have better literature. I mean, yeah, I guess it's like a fun novel to read. You want to go through. There are going to be a lot of people reading that. That's your weekend reading of the Ghislaine Maxwell deposition. But maybe when we've had some time to digest all the sort of details, we'll actually get into the substance of this, but not today. Next, from NBC News via yahoo.com, Pope calls for civil union laws for same-sex couples in major departure from Vatican doctrine. Pope Francis called for the passage of civil union laws for same-sex couples in a documentary that aired in Rome on Wednesday, in a major departure from the position held by the Vatican's doctrinal office. The quote is, homosexuals have a right to be a part of the family. They're children of God and have a right to a family. Nobody should be thrown out or made miserable because of it. What we have to create is a civil union law. That way they are legally covered. I stood up for that. So many things I could say about the history of the church that are relevant to this, that for their sake, just so we don't trigger any Catholics or altar boys. I'm not going to get into that. But I will say that I wish that the Pope had a more fundamentally ethical position here. I don't know if you caught this. Most people reading the story didn't. I think even most libertarians aren't going to immediately think of this when they hear this headline, because you go, oh, that's good news. We are being more inclusive, human rights being extended to more people. But what Pope Francis is doing here is actually, while appearing positive on the surface, at a deeper level, doing something actually quite destructive. And that's reinforcing the idea that governments should have anything to do with family law whatsoever. That the most valuable relationships in your life should be managed or regulated by government. And if you remember in your history classes, oh, I'm sorry, you went to government school, they wouldn't have told you this. marriage licenses as a legal phenomena in the United States started in order to prevent interracial couples from getting married. And up till now has been used to keep same-sex couples from getting married. And I'm a fan. I'm married. I am a fan of the institution. I am not a fan of bringing government violence or coercion into it. And with divorce rates as they are in the United States, it is so destructive for the Pope to reinforce this paradigm that destroys so many lives, because as victims of family law, when the government has the power to regulate our relationships and our families, what happens all too often is that the state is weaponized against individuals in those relationships at a huge cost to society that just so happens to benefit government power and profiteers. All right, next from the Associated Press, OxyContin maker Purdue Pharma to plead to 3 criminal charges. There are a lot of intersections in this story with the opioid epidemic, with the surge in overdoses in coronaphobia season. And, you know, I don't want to champion this story as like, oh, now, oh, yeah, the pharmaceutical industry in America is finally being brought under control by government. Nah, this is more like symbolic. Like, yeah, in order to maintain our credibility, we have to do something about this. But to give you a sense of the scope, there is a settlement here with the Justice Department of more than $8 billion. And again, does that money go to the American people who are victimized somehow by this? No. Now, were there real crimes? Oh, yes, absolutely. As part of the resolution, Purdue is admitting that it impeded the Drug Enforcement Administration by falsely representing that it had maintained an effective program to avoid drug diversion, and by reporting misleading information to the agency to boost the company's manufacturing quotas. What that means, avoid drug diversion. That is, drugs being diverted from their official channels to being sold on the black market. And some of this happens in a way that drug companies can't control. You know, hey, where'd this shipment? Hey, we're not. This giant box of pills just disappeared off the back of the truck. What do you know? But more often the case is it's a prescription scam. Florida is widely known as an opiate and general prescription sort of pill distribution center for illegal. Yeah, there are a lot of people who just fly back and forth to Florida, pick up massive prescriptions, and then sell them on the street. A lot of street drugs or a lot of prescription drugs that end up being sold as street drugs come out of Florida, come from various, legal processes that lead to individuals being overprescribed and then being able to sell them on the street. But there are a lot of lines that are crossed even in the law, but also in violating the natural law in the fraud that's behind this. And I'm not just talking about, penis pill commercials and the misleading ways that all these pharmaceuticals are being advertised, but specifically another thing from the story, another one of the charges, Purdue is also admitting to violating federal anti-kickback laws by paying doctors through a speaking program to induce them to write more prescriptions for the company's opioids and for using electronic health records software to influence the prescription of pain medication. Yeah. So, by the way, about the money, it's funny. Purdue will make a direct payment to the government of $225 million. That's it, out of the $8 billion, which is part of a larger $2 billion criminal forfeiture. In addition to that forfeiture, Purdue also faces $3.54 billion criminal, a $3.54 billion criminal fine though that money probably will not be fully collected because it will be taken through a bankruptcy, which includes a large number of other creditors. Purdue will also agree to $2.8 billion in damages to resolve its civil liability. How much of that is going to get to actual victims? Probably very little. But the company, but not the family behind it, this is the Sackler family, declared bankruptcy as a way to work out this plan, which could be worth about $10 billion over time. This is also a controversy within government enforcement. About half the states oppose that settlement, and also wrote to Barr, Attorney General, to ask him not to make the federal deal that includes converting Purdue into a public benefit corporation. Wait. There's a fascist angle in this too? Yeah. The merging of corporations in the state is Mussolini's definition of fascism when he said it would be better described as corporatism. So what are we talking about here? Oxy. Got any oxys? OxyContin. And this is a huge, I mean, this is possibly the foundation of the opioid crisis in America. It's not a natural phenomenon. It is the product of government regulation and the product of fraud, straight up corporate fraud that wouldn't be possible without government protecting the Sackler family from liability. That's why they call them LLCs, limited liability companies or corporations, right? You can create a corporate entity in America and fuck people over. In fact, you can create a national crisis that has led to countless deaths in the United States with overdoses and all the other problems in the current opioid crisis. And then step back and you can create a corporation. You can use it to fuck over lots of people. And then when those people sue you, you can say, oh yeah, the company was wrong. Totally, the company owes you. Yeah, oh yeah. Oh, but not me. I got paid separately. I'm not the company. Declare bankruptcy and your victims are still screwed. That's the reality of American corporatism. And we see it playing out in this case with Purdue becoming, I mean, this is going to be interesting to see really how this develops, but becoming a public trust, a public benefit corporation. Really? If that's not fascism, it's, I don't know what is, but it's certainly very clearly black and white socialism. And welcome to 2020 America. If the plot couldn't thicken anymore, it has now. I don't see this enforcement obviously as changing anything significant, but this might just be the slow, awkward way that the American system finally deals, or at least starts to acknowledge the scope and appropriately deal with the opioid crisis. It's about time. All right, speaking of time, I know we're a little over, so I'm going to see how many stories we can breeze through, and we'll just do like 5-10 more minutes of headlines. Everybody cool with that? Yeah, we normally go over 2 hours on the show anyway. I know we're late today, but then we are going to check in with the comments. We are going to get to that good news. So the New York Times has this headline: the police can probably break into your phone. Yeah, at least 2,000 law enforcement agencies have tools to get into encrypted smartphones, according to new research, and they are using them far more than previously known. So just quick take on this. I'm glad that there's some mainstream attention being paid to this, but remember, if you take an extreme truth and all you do is make it moderate, if you look at the extreme inhumanity of the current authority power structure in the world, and you say, oh, that's normal, that's moderate, that's not a big deal, that's a fucking lie, and it's a very destructive one. And I'm a little suspicious that, oh, it's it's law enforcement, certain agencies looking into your phone, and it's cops, local cops. No. The NSA, the truth, as extreme as this little bit in this story may seem to most Americans, the truth is far more extreme. And it's really fucked up. It's sad that as an American, as a human being on Earth today, with the amazing technology that we have, no matter how encrypted your phone is, or no matter how much, unless you do end-to-end air-gap offline encryption, you can't be certain that anything you digitize is secure, because the back doors on every device, the government of the major governments of the world today will not allow you to manufacture a smartphone or be a cell phone service provider without giving them a back door. And keystrokes, screen shares, anything, you can't trust it. So I just go by the assumption that none of my digital communications are ever 100% secure. And I would encourage everyone, unless you have some special purpose or function where you've gone to other efforts and you've measured out all the risks, and the NSA wouldn't blow their cover over me selling dime bags in North Carolina to my buddy across the street. Okay, fine. They're not going to worry. You don't have to worry about that. But you still got to assume that if they want to, they can see all of that. Next story is Politico.com. White House leans on Pentagon to fulfill Trump's Afghanistan pledge. Quote, we have a plan that's been in place for some time, going to 4,500 by this month, National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien said Tuesday. The White House is turning up the pressure on the Pentagon to carry out President Trump's directive of a further withdrawal of U.S. troops from Afghanistan as the commander-in-chief looks to deliver on a campaign pledge ahead of next month's election. I wasn't going to get that much into this story anyway, because it's all political pandering, posturing. We know Trump is super pro-militarism, even though his populist message sometimes calls out those wonderful companies making the bombs and the planes and weapons and all that. But yeah, this is really just pathetic October political pandering. The reason why this works, though, and again, to call America, please, to a higher standard of intellectual integrity, so that someone can't get away with what Trump has gotten away with. But what he has gotten away with that's relevant here is he has created this narrative. He's the outsider, and he's fighting the deep state, and he's fighting all the Clinton and Democrat appointees, and he's doing his best to be a champion for the American people. It's all bullshit. And if you think Trump is anti-war, anti-militarism, if just looking at the drone strikes, the general policies weren't enough, look at his 5 out of 8 vetoes, which all overturned Congress, that den of thieves, trying to limit military-industrial complex spending. So no, don't buy it. NBCnews.com, lawyers say they can't find the parents of 545 migrant children separated by Trump administration. Now, this is just some pretty blatant politicization in the headline. Did the Trump administration separate them directly? No. Yeah, I'm not saying that Trump doesn't have responsibility for this, but when there were negative headlines, excuse me, again, vitamins without food before the show. When you see these kinds of headlines with Obama, it's not Obama does this, Obama does that, but separated by Trump. Now, and I don't mean to diminish the story, just pointing out that it seems like an unnecessary editorial, angle to tack onto your headline. Well, separated by Trump administration. But this is horrific. About 2/3 of the 1,000 plus parents separated from their kids under a 2017 pilot program were deported before a federal judge ordered that they be found. Yeah, and one of the stories I think we missed last week was that at one of the detention centers in Georgia, women were being given forced hysterectomies. I mean, there's so much. It's not. it's not just Trump, it's American border policy in general is fucking inhumane. Yeah, all right, skipping ahead from the Associated Press. Ex-Mexico Army chief arrested in LA on drugs money charges. Former Mexican Defense Secretary General Salvador Cienfuegos, who led the country's army for 6 years under ex-president Enrique Peña Nieto, has been arrested on drug trafficking and money laundering charges at LA International Airport, U.S. and Mexican sources said Thursday. There's going to be I don't want to get too into this now because the information from this story is somewhat limited. But I bet we're going to see updates on this. And I would ask our producers club, if you see more follow-up headlines, let me know. I guarantee there's more to the story than just the arrest of one general. And I would bet money, and this connects to all my other predictions that have come true, that there's meth involved. And just for those who missed it, my prediction is that we will eventually find out that in 2020, there was a major U.S. federal government program to traffic methamphetamines, crystal meth specifically, into the United States from Mexico in order to fuel unrest. And I think I've been at least partially proven right in what we've seen in recent headlines with records being set in meth arrests and quantities of meth being seized in those arrests. We covered a couple of those headlines last week. So maybe we'll see the general connected to this. But yeah, this is going all the way up the chain. From Vice.com, Vice News, a 7-year-old with autism was handcuffed and interrogated for nearly 40 minutes at school. The officer said to the boy, "You ever been charged with a crime before? Well, you're fixing to be." You just look at the photo, and it's got the kid's face blurred out, thankfully. But this is just, yeah, today in outrage, fucking horrific. Newly released body cam footage shows how a North Carolina school resource officer handcuffed a 7-year-old boy with autism and threatened him for nearly 40 minutes as staffers stood by. Now the boy's mother is suing the state, the school district, and the officer for negligence, emotional distress, and violating the Constitution. Yeah, I hope she's successful. And the school resource officer, school law enforcement. Oh, when you cover the news like I do, I see a lot of horror stories like this, and I try. It kind of becomes like bad cop porn. When you become a libertarian, by the way, shout out to copblock.org, hugely influential and very important for me in understanding the police state. But once you understand, the police state, if you just, because you could watch cops behaving badly, in sensationalist, violent videos all day long now, and I mean, there's the library of footage that we have in America of police brutality, and thanks to smartphones and the internet, it's overwhelming. And eventually, it's just like watching porn. You're not learning anything by watching another police brutality video. And so when I see this, I'm like, yeah, I don't want to get into any more of the story anyway. So happy to cover it quickly. Skipping ahead, we're going to do a really quick COVID block of headlines. I don't want to put this off too much. Remember, tomorrow we've got our special episode, statistics, suicides, and corona. And then Friday we'll get to catch up on all the other headlines, but I don't want to let these go any further. From Reuters, deaths after flu shots in South Korea fan fears, but authorities find no link. Yeah, so they're actually getting vaccines out. 9 people have died after getting flu shots in South Korea in the past week, raising concerns over the vaccine safety, just as the seasonal inoculation program is expanded to head off potential COVID-19 complications. So already, People are suspicious. Government says there's nothing to worry about. Yeah, one of my favorite memes going around right now is, hey, when we get a COVID vaccine in America, to see if it's safe, let's just test it on Congress. And if it's safe and nobody dies, then great. If everybody dies, we're all safe. Great. Better wording on the actual meme. Also from Reuters, whales, as in the Welsh, not the creatures in the ocean. Wales imposes 2-week lockdown. I mean, it'd be funny if the creatures in the ocean were trying to impose a 2-week lockdown, right? How do you control an epidemic in the ocean? Well, the whales get together and they have their little lockdown areas. And no, Wales imposes 2-week lockdown. Everybody must stay at home. Yeah. They say their critical care beds are full. I don't have time to question all the bullshit premises of these. So moving on. Police given another one from Reuters. Police given access to details of people told to self-isolate by UK government system. So in the UK, they don't even pretend to have safeguards against privacy that we do in the US. And now Corona is an excuse for really ramping up the surveillance state there. From the AFP via MSN.com, Polish gym dubs itself a church to bypass virus rules. I love it. A Polish gym has dubbed itself a church in a bid to stay open under new antivirus restrictions that have seen the fitness industry scramble for creative loopholes. Yeah. So who knows? We'll see how this plays out. But I love this. The Atlantic Sports Club said on Facebook, quote, because fitness classes aren't allowed starting today, we're offering religious gatherings for members of the Church of the Healthy Body. I hope they get away with it. Our debate manager, Mercedes Damertowski in Nebraska, wanted us to share this headline from the Kearney Hub, kearneyhub.com. Nebraska had another record week for coronavirus cases, increased among fastest in nation. As anticipated, both Nebraska and Douglas County last week posted their third straight record week for new coronavirus cases. Some of the other stories that I read today have pointed out that the South is now the hotbed for coronavirus cases. So, little prediction here. You're not going to be hearing about, by the way, when was the last time we heard about any statistics from Italy? It's been a while. Probably because they've all been revealed to be very thin and mostly bullshit. Highly exaggerated. But we're not hearing about New York or LA or Seattle as hotspots. My prediction is that you're going to see a lot more blame now placed on the South and rural communities in America for being responsible for super spreading events, as they're talking about Trump and his stuff. So we got a little Chinese or China block. We're gonna have to save that for Friday. Is Child Protective Services trafficking children? Yeah, I can't cover that one quickly. Even one laptop left behind. I got to read a couple paragraphs. So I guess. Ben Swan, the guy, you might have heard of the headline that there was a guy who was dangling off of Trump Tower asking to speak to the president or Ben Swan. So we're not going to play the video, but Ben Swan has a great 4-minute video on his Facebook detailing that. I encourage you to check it out if you want some more content today. Link will be in the show notes. Now, CJ shared this story from blackhillsfox.com. Marijuana gummies send 2 Newcastle teens to hospital after overdose. You literally cannot, by medical definition, overdose on cannabis. You can take more than you wanted. You can suffer some unpleasant effects if you are overwhelmed by your high. And a lot of people end up, crawling into bed. And Jim and I had some fun talk about this, that there is going to be naturally in the industry better standardization. And this article points out that it's in their best interests as manufacturers to avoid overdoses, to have better labeling, and it's funny, here's a 1,000 milligram cookie. This thing will put you in bed for a week. So by the way, you should only eat half of it at a time. And it's like, yeah, that's how I love eating my cookies, half at a time. No, so breaking edibles into standardized, clearly labeled doses, I think is coming. But this is a bullshit fear-mongering story. And what's crazy about it is that they actually were flown to here it is. The juveniles were taken to the hospital by their parents and later flown by medevac fixed-wing airplane to Denver Children's Hospital. No medical details, no description of symptoms. Either there's something else to this story, or there's nothing to this story, and they're just blowing it up for bullshit. We've got NASA touching down on an asteroid to collect a sample. I guess that's our big good news for today, outside of goodnewsnetwork.org. So if you want to check that out, a NASA spacecraft is scheduled to reach out and touch an asteroid that it has been orbiting. Spacecraft is called Origins, Spectral Interpretation Resource Identification Security Regolith Explorer, or OSIRIS-REx for short. OSIRIS-REx will land on a section of the asteroid Bennu called Nightingale and hopefully return home with a sample. Apparently, the Japanese are already doing this. They just haven't gotten their sample home yet, which is scheduled to land here on Earth in December. So with that, that's it for the news today. Let's get to your comments and wrap this up. Shit, we're 20 minutes over time. I hope it was worth it. I hope you feel informed, enlightened, and are you not entertained? Let's get Jim Freedom up on stage here. Comment, Jim Freedom. Just I don't know. CJ wants to play.
CJ really just wants to play this footage. He likes space. I think he's driving the flat earthers nuts right now.
All right, so we can let that play and still put comments on screen, right? If you wanted to keep letting that video roll, CJ, while we do comments, Jim, what do you got?
Fine. It don't matter to me. That's fine. Let's see. Empty matter usually goes for a walk when the edibles hit too much.
Good advice.
Yeah, you were bringing that up because you said the labels are coming because we were reading the details on the new legislation, the Prop 207 that's supposed to pass here in Arizona.
Right. Oh, Jim, hold on. Let's save that for Friday. Yeah, Jim and I did our research on the Arizona cannabis bill that's on the ballot. And there's a lot of interesting stuff to the story. So if you remember that, Jim, we'll come back to it. CJ?
Yeah, I just wanted to share this because I look at the masks. Look at how much masking is going on in NASA. I mean, look at this. This is some next level masking going on, and they've got they're about ready for touchdown in this scene. But yeah, the masks. The ones that are announcing it, though, they even go further than these black masks. They got the full shields. To me, it's just, this is social distanced office, 6 feet apart with your mask. This is political correctness in action. Here, look, you're gonna get well, I guess it's the wrong one. But either way, they're masking.
They do look like they're intentionally spreading out. Like those people standing right there, they would normally probably be hovering right over those people in front of them, watching the computer monitors and everything. But they're making a special video to show how they're staying distanced, or whatever.
Now, I can't see from these videos, but one of the things that I've seen around town is that there are a lot of people. Yay, NASA victory moment! Look at that. Everybody's cheering with their masks on. I mean, it is kind of dystopic. But these fancier black masks, I've seen a lot of these with vents in them. And those masks are intended to protect you from inhaling stuff and allow you to freely exhale, right? They've got a little circle, usually off to the side, that's got a rubber membrane so that when there's air pressure, it opens and you can breathe out without being restricted. But when you're breathing in, it's coming through the filter of the mask. And according to the bullshit propaganda narrative, that defeats the entire point of wearing a mask to control COVID, because the idea was to not be breathing out. And I guess your droplets don't go as far. Anyway, I just have to point out that little silly quirk for the record that I've noticed in the mask paranoia right now.
Yeah, that was a very thing.
Oh yeah,
So
sorry.
Mark,
Back to the flat
were
earthers. My bad.
those NASA? Wait, were those NASA masks? Could you tell looking close? Were those the vented ones?
No, those were not. But
Okay, well, good for them.
They didn't look vintage.
but to me, it's kind of like, yeah, this is cool, land on an asteroid, but like the masks, it's just, are we ever gonna get back to a point in time where like we have, you know, not masks? Like is this a forever thing? Like I mean,
It's starting to feel like it. I
it
mean,
is.
when you think about it, these companies are spending lots of money to make these changes that they're making. And they, they're not going to make those changes and spend that money unless they know that it's a permanent change.
Yeah.
Them being the checkpoint burn, which is where
This,
we'll
I mean,
actually check
I mean, I got to admit, it's kind of cool listening to what they're saying they're doing out there. You know, if space is real, of course. You know, and this isn't a simulation. And yeah, I mean, honestly,
Well, space is real. The simulation's got to be happening somewhere, CJ.
I
All
guess
right,
maybe.
let's wrap up the comments. What else do we have, Jim? Did we get any links? Did anybody want to help out with
No,
with our
No,
show?
maybe they can email them to me. That'll give them some time to think about it, or
Yeah.
maybe they were just too glued to our content right
No.
now.
So Jim, now here's how we'll do this, because I'm going to be doing final prep for tomorrow's show tomorrow morning. So send me an email. Now, we do have a bunch of links that are related to this that have come to us from the Producers Club, or people who already have membership. But you can win membership if you contribute to our special episode tomorrow: statistics, suicides, and corona. If you send me an email, adam@thefreedomline.com, with the link, I will see it before tomorrow morning, and you can win that membership. If we don't have any in the comments, people are too busy watching live. You don't want to go out and do research. But I want to encourage everybody, if you have suicide resources or mental health resources, or even just personal best practices, bring them tomorrow. Put them in the comments. We're going to keep it tomorrow. It's going to be a special episode, one subject the whole way through. And we do want to include the audience. We want to make this a collaborative experience, not just me putting the content together, but for the Adam versus the Man community to come together for each other's mental health, and as activists to support the mental health of the whole human family. All right, so any last comments?
Yeah, last one. Our good friend, he's a statist. See what I did there? We must know, did the bird fly another 14 days home yet?
All right, so this is a reference to our Godwit story. If you don't know the Godwit, really amazing bird. Excuse me, I'm like not remembering the numbers off the top of my head, but you can look at our show notes.
For 11 days.
Okay, thank you. Flew for 11 days straight, 7,500 miles from Alaska to New Zealand or Australia, something like that. But yeah, look it up in the news. Godwit. There was a new study because they actually had a tracking device on one of these birds. Pretty freaking amazing. No troll comments, no hater comments. I mean,
no hater comments. The 1054 mentions that the flat asteroiders are fuming right now.
By the way, it's CJ's request.
Oh,
Look,
yeah.
I can make my skin turn orange by reflecting blue light and trying to be cool like Donald Trump. It's like instant digital spray tan filter here on StreamYard. All right, too much visual stuff for the audio audience. Get me off screen. Let's talk about something better. No more comments, Jim?
Let me see here. I'm scrolling back up. Oh, that article that had the teenagers overdosing on the edibles or whatever. Professor Fink says no further information is the funniest ending to that story. They don't want to tell you anything else, actually, any of the actual details.
Yeah.
They were just giggling their way to the hospital.
Yeah, no, I think it was probably parents being more concerned than the teenagers in this case. All right, that's about our show. Couple quick promos. Of course, go to Adam versus the Man. Suspends.com. You can support us by joining the Patreon Producers Club. You can buy our merch. You can help us out with MakeThemDebates.com. And our partners, CigarFederation.com. You go there, promo code ADAM10 gets you 10% off your order. So finally, for the good news on this day in history, as I said earlier, this is worth saying again. On this day in 1921, Warren G. Harding delivered the first speech by a sitting U.S. president that condemned the lynching of African Americans in the Deep South, despite evidence of wide opposition among white voters. On this day in 1945, 75 years ago today, women in France were finally awarded the right to vote for the first time, decades later than most Western countries, including New Zealand, Australia, the US, UK, Finland, and Norway. And on this day in 1994, North Korea and the US signed an agreement that requires North Korea to stop its nuclear weapons program and agree to inspections. Yeah, mostly political pandering, but we'll end with some legitimately good news. On this day in 1854, Florence Nightingale, founder of the nursing profession, left for Turkey with 38 women. She trained to tend British soldiers dying from unsanitary conditions in the Crimean War. And I hope you enjoyed the bonus 30 minutes today. Just remember, if you don't like the first hour of Adam versus the Man, you can get the second hour for free. That's our show. Thanks so much for joining us. Remember, special episode tomorrow, statistics, suicides, and Corona. And then what did we miss on Friday? Okay, one more comment from Unicorny. Another awesome show. Thank you. All right. Mwah. Wait, another comment. Jimmy, thanks for being the voice of the American people. If only I was actually the voice of the American people. Mwah. Peace and love, y'all. Choose happiness and be excellent to each other.